Hey y'all, welcome back to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, fringe candidates, and generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And hey, so Kanye West dropped out and then ended up on the Oklahoma ballot, and just nothing means anything anymore.
Wait, I didn't even hear that he dropped. I completely moved on, and I guess he did too.
No, he's doing Ross Perot's strategy, I think, every other week.
What? So he dropped out, but he's on the Oklahoma ballot.
Yeah. It turns out in Oklahoma, if you want to end up on their presidential ballot, all you have to do is pay $35,000.
You know, Oklahoma, if you would just tax your wealthy, maybe pay your teachers. You don't need to wait for Kanye West to decide to be on the ballot.
Well, the thing was, Kanye West wasn't the only person to pay $35,000 just to end up on the ballot.
Do tell.
I'm going to find the dude's name. I don't want to... yeah. So, I don't know if you remember a little movie called The Mighty Ducks, or The Mighty Ducks 2, D2.
Why, yes, I was born in the 80s. Go on.
Yeah, so a child actor who was in those movies.
Any statement starting with a child actor.
So, you remember at the beginning of the first Mighty Ducks, you have little baby Gordon Bombay fucking things up and losing his dad's love?
To be honest, I grew up watching a lot of 1950s sci-fi movies and Casablanca over again because I'm an only child of baby boomers. But go on, tell me.
All right, yeah, that's massively different. All right, so so the kid who plays young, oh my god, Emilio Estevez.
Oh, okay.
And also apparently was the star of the movie First Kid, a slapstick comedy film in which I believe a kid becomes a president of America.
Sure.
Or no, he's the 13-year-old rebellious son of the president, and Sinbad is assigned to keep him in check.
Yes, that I remember that poster.
Yeah, so it was the kid who starred in that. He goes by the name of Brock Pierce. He is also now a cryptocurrency magnate.
Name a kid Brock.
Yeah, I mean, and as is tradition with kids named Brock, he does have sexual abuse allegations.
Oh boy.
And the year 2000, 3 former DEN employees filed a lawsuit against Pierce alleging that he provided them with drugs and pressured them for sex when they were boys. Court records show that Pierce paid more than $21,000 to settle one of the lawsuits while the other two were dropped.
Wow.
Yeah, so this guy...
This guy is on the ballot as well.
Yeah, those were the two main ones, and then there was a third person who's like a life coach who also paid for the $35,000 as well. So 3 people ended up giving the state of Oklahoma $105,000 just to end up on their ballot.
Well,
America.
Enjoy.
Yeah, mazel. I'm sure.
Mazel tov. So
yeah, that's a bit of a delightful third-party politics news brief. Did it?
For our Rocky updates.
Oh man, yeah, I wish there'd be Rocky updates. I don't think there's any other parties that he can run for right now. So he's got
better start making up more, Rocky.
Seriously, he needs to start getting on more state ballots as of right now, or he's absolutely going to have no chance to win the presidency this year.
He doesn't have a chance to win the presidency.
Look, the Rocky Mountains plan, sorry, my fault, was at least a plan. It was at least a plausible, if not nearly impossible plan, but it could have worked.
Nope.
Oh, Lordy. Anyway, let's talk about a third party today that actually has a statistical chance of winning.
Yeah. Who are we discussing today?
Well, the thing was, I was planning on us moving on to going back to our history lessons and learning about past events, picking something fun and interesting. But I completely forgot that the Green Party had their convention a couple weeks ago. And I didn't think it was until August. So at the last second, I had to drop everything, watch the Green Party for an entire day at their convention. And yeah, we're going to be covering the 2020 Green Party convention.
Dusty, you do so much.
Look, this one was at least mentally less taxing than the Constitution Party, but it ended up having a lot more optimism than I would say the Libertarians. So that's the Green Party. The Green Party, they are pure optimism, big ideas. So
can taste the granola.
Oh my god, it is flavorless and there are no M&Ms in it.
Everyone shows up in their Geo.
Oh my god. Look, if this Geo tracker's still running, I'm not trading it in. I don't care if you have to lift the door handle to close the door. All right, so yeah, let's talk about the fucking Green Party, I guess.
You're so not happy about it. Wait, for more about edification.
Yeah.
Was Jill Stein part of the Green Party?
Yeah, she was.
All right. All right.
Yep.
Cracking knuckles. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do this shit. All right. So the Green Party is, unlike the Libertarians and the Constitution Party, an international party. And the Green Party itself can be traced back to 1972, technically, when the first ever green or environmentally focused party ran for election. This would have been the United Tasmania Group, which was founded in Australia. It did not do well.
Oh.
And it would be another 8 years before a Green Party would rise to some level of notability. And this would happen in West Germany. Today, Germany has a very, very robust Green Party that has seats in their version of the House, has a multitude of elected officials, and has done very, very well for itself. And throughout Europe, the Green Party would grow throughout a multitude of countries. It wouldn't be until August of 1991, though, that America would get its own version of the Green Party. It would be founded as the Greens/Green Party USA, because that's not confusing, and were founded in the small town of Elkins, West Virginia. They would run for a number of offices in the beginning with not a whole lot of success, but in 1996, they would run their first ever presidential campaign. And it would be the first ever presidential campaign with Ralph Nader and Winona LaDuke. For their first presidential run, it was pretty solid. They ended up getting 0.7% of the vote. In 1991, the Green Party would get their first ever person elected to State General Assembly or Congress with Audie Bach. However, she would end up switching from Green to Independent 7 months later. In 2000, the Greens would once again run Ralph Nader and Winona LaDuke for president. Now, a lot of people who were around at the time would remember this as the time the Green Party had their greatest level of success, but also be the first of many times that people would be infuriated at the Green Party. For a quick history reminder, 2000 was the first time since, I believe, 1880 that the person who got the popular vote would end up losing the electoral vote. And so George W. Bush beats Al Gore. And who do people blame? Not Al Gore for maybe should have run a better campaign. But people would look straight towards the Green Party and the fact that that year they got 2.7% of the vote. And this is one of my biggest issues when it comes to people blaming third parties for major parties losing. Is there is an idea that if that 2.7% hadn't voted for the Greens, of course they would have voted for Al Gore. And that is bullshit. It's no. If someone was wanting to vote for Al Gore more, they would have. There are multiple other candidates who are running in 2000 those people would have probably voted for. And just kind of this party birthright that people have, this assumption that these are votes that are automatically given to these candidates, really, really drives me nuts.
This is starting to get into the world of rank voting, that thing of like, I remember a few months back, probably at the heyday of the Democratic primaries earlier this year, of talking about like instituting rank voting. This idea of like, like your person is going to get it. So like, if you what's your list? What's your list rather than like an all or nothing?
100%, yeah. I am a gigantic proponent of ranked choice voting. I think it's a wonderful idea. It takes a little bit longer to figure out who won, but it also encourages people to actually look at every single candidate instead of just picking the one person and moving on.
Yeah. And
that's something I probably would have really liked for the Chicago mayor election. I think that would have been really wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Yep. I think as a nation we're ready. I feel like we've all had BuzzFeed quizzes for the better part of 10 years. I think we're ready. We're primed.
Thank you, BuzzFeed, for getting us ready for ranked choice voting.
You know what though? Like
big preach. So this would end up causing a lot of anger towards the Green Party in general. Yeah. But this would also be the beginning of a really, really rough transition for the Green Party. You see, in 2001, the party would split and form the Green Party of the USA, which is completely different from the Greens' Green Party USA. The split initially occurred due to a theory that politics are naturally corrupting. So some believe that Greens shouldn't run for office at all and instead enact change outside of politics. Yeah.
So much of the Green Party, like in my mind, is the party of Una's ex-boyfriends.
All right. And so this caused a humongous rift in the party and led to what the party is known as today as the Green Party of the United States of America. The Greens and Green Party USA would hang on for a bit, but would eventually dissolve in 2019. But the problem is after 2001, the Greens and the Green Party USA affiliates would begin dissolving immediately, and everyone who decided to run for office flocked to the new version of the party. In 2002, John Eder was elected to the Maine House of Representatives with 65% of the vote, becoming one of the Green Party's greatest successes so far. That, however, would end up becoming much sadder, though, in 2004 during their third presidential campaign. Ralph Nader was no longer on the ticket, neither was Winona LaDuke, and instead they chose to run David Cobb, a lawyer, and Pat LaMarche, who was an activist of some sort. Now, the Green Party seems to have a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? A pattern when it comes to who they nominate. The person that they nominate for president is either going to be a lawyer or someone with a deep amount of political experience, typically someone who has held a government position before. And the vice presidential nominee is almost always an activist or a community organizer. Now, the thing is, without Ralph Nader, and after people being incredibly furious as to what happened in 2000, it was really, really hard for them to get going. But it also didn't help that Ralph Nader was running as an independent that year.
Oh, Judas! Ralph Nader, do you just want to be hated by everyone?
I mean, look, there weren't many people when I was younger that my dad was mad at, but my dad hated Ralph Nader.
What's so frustrating is I think for an entire generation, for millennials at least, like so many of us came of age at the 2000 election. Like either we were just a year or two shy of being able to vote, or it was our first time being able to vote. Mm-hmm. And so that was our introduction to Ralph Nader. And then like, I think there was probably like an Atlantic piece or something talking about him and just sort of reminding people of like what he did before. He did so much for consumer protection.
Yeah,
like, so much.
Ralph Nader is an extraordinarily good man.
Which just makes me angrier. Because like, why you just flushed all that goodwill down that you were fine. Yeah. You were fine where you were. But no, you had to be president.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely going to do a whole series on Ralph Nader one day.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, so Ralph would end up spurning the Green Party, run as an independent, end up finishing third once again. The Green Party, after getting 2.7% of the vote in the previous election, got 0.1% of the vote this time around. They would end up finishing behind the Constitution Party.
Yikes.
Yeah. It was bad. 2006 would come around and they would get their first ever elected mayor with Gail McLaughlin, who would end up becoming mayor of Richmond, California, and would be their greatest success when it came to mayors because it would be the one city where they would hold a position where the population is over 100,000 people.
Hey.
The 2008 presidential campaign was a very interesting one because they were able to snag Cynthia McKinney. Now, Cynthia McKinney was a former congresswoman from Georgia and was kind of a big get for them to be able to get someone who was nationally recognized. However, they had the exact same result as they did in 2004, getting 0.1% of the vote once again. 2008, Richard Carroll would end up getting elected to the Arkansas House of Representatives, but 5 months later, he switched to being a Democrat after winning as a Green.
Oh, God. Dude.
It's kind of frustrating how much of a pattern this becomes for the Green Party.
Now they're starting to sound like me with every ex-boyfriend.
Look, it's not you. Just the Democrats offer me so much more. I'm so much happier.
Yeah, it's like, oh, when you said you didn't want to get married, it meant to me. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, sweet,
enjoy the Democrats.
I like trees. I guess I don't need you.
It's fine.
2012 though would end up bringing us our modern day villain. The Ralph Nader of the 2010s, I suppose. Former city assemblywoman, Jill Stein.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And like, I will say, like, for all of my joking, Jill Stein to me is the preferred candidate of ex-boyfriends of Una O'Leary. It's, and I say this with all seriousness because they can then look other women dead in the eye and say they did vote for women. So they're not misogynist.
Oh no.
They're just terrible people.
But the thing is, with Jill Stein, this would end up being the thing that would start to turn the party around. After 2 straight presidential elections of barely 0.1%, they were able to quintuple. Is that the right? For 4 is a quintuple, right? Or is that 5? Quadtuple. They were able to quadruple their votes and end up at 0.4%. Once again, in 2012, they would also get another person elected to the Arkansas House of Representatives, a guy by the name of Fred Smith. However, as is tradition, Fred Smith would switch to the Democrat Party 2 years later.
Man, poor Greens.
It's so heartbreaking. Like, you finally have the success, but you can't keep your winnings.
They put all this work into a person, polishing them up into a votable human being, and then they just leave.
And in Arkansas, they have had some of the best success in Arkansas.
All right, Arkansas.
I mean,
what is happening there? What's in the water?
I don't know, but I mean, for as good as the Greens run in Arkansas, they really need to put more time in maintaining their candidates. So 2016 would come around again. and Jill Stein would once again get the nomination. And this would be the first time since 2000 that the Green Party was able to get more than 1% of the vote, getting 1.1% this time around. Now, as we all remember, there was a bit of confusion as to whether or not Jill Stein might have some weird connections with Vladimir Putin.
Or just some weird connections with reality?
Yeah, that too. That too. And so, once again, a lot of the blame for Hillary Clinton losing was the 1.1% of the vote that went to the Green Party, making it the second time the Green Party has been blamed for the popular vote winner not winning the Electoral College.
2000, I could totally understand it because that was also peak verbal beating on hippies
era.
Yeah. But yeah, now it's just like, come on, friends, we've got voter suppression and Russian bots. Like, there's so much more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I doubt it would have gotten that crazy with the Green Party if there wasn't these really weird connections between Jill Stein and Russia. But
yeah,
who fucking knows? I haven't done enough of a deep dive into that to say one way or the other. But I will say it's fucking weird.
Yep.
And the fact is, that election is actually really influencing the Greens a lot this year, in the year 2020.
Go on.
On one hand, there's a large number of Greens that are actually very sad that Jill Stein isn't running this year. But also, since they are now having their third straight presidential election with an uptick in the number of votes they've received, they are making 2020 the year that they want to be on the ballot in all 50 states in DC, which is something they've actually never done before.
All right.
Yeah, which honestly surprised me a bit. I figured it was both them and the Libertarians who had done it before, but now the Greens at most have been on the ballot in 44 states.
Huh. Not even continental 48.
No, it's kind of weird, but yeah, that's where they are right now. But also, as of 2020, 126 Greens currently hold elected office. And this includes one mayor, Bruce Delgado of Marina, California, and 15 city council people and alderpersons.
See, this is where my heart goes out to the Green Party, because I feel like they're one of the few third parties that understand the importance of the down ballot elections. Yeah. Even though we have built an entire podcast around this, you don't just wake up and suddenly get into the White House.
Yeah.
That's not it.
Yeah. It's definitely not a good plan from what we've seen so far. Yeah, but in most of those 126 Greens are on water reclamation boards. They're on environmental sort of panels.
Oh my God, where they're doing the most good. Yes.
Exactly. Where their level of expertise is where they're getting elected. So here's the thing, their platform. So in the previous ones, I've gone over the Constitution Party's platform, the Libertarian Party platform pretty thoroughly. The only note I have for their platform that I've written down is it is too fucking long. Pages and pages and pages long. It is pretty much every grand liberal to super liberal idea that is out there. It is in their fucking platform, which good on them. It would take an entire episode for me just to break down all of their general ideas. So from memory, I'm going to try my best to get the ones that are still in my brain after reading it this week.
Honestly, that makes the most sense. You know, it's just like they're sticking with you for a reason.
Exactly. So very much like the Constitution Party, the party is supported by the ideals of 4 pillars. I'm not going to read them, though, because they repeat them again in their 10 key values, and that is some basic bullshit. Their 10 key values, though, are grassroots democracy. So their general idea is they don't want companies donating money to politicians. They don't want millionaires giving, stupid amounts of money to candidates. And they support ranked choice voting, as well as proportional representation. So proportional representation is essentially what a lot of European countries have in their parliaments, where it's not so much a winner-take-all per district as it is a total of vote accumulation. So if you have like 3% of the vote, you get X number of representatives in the Congress or in the parliament, and so on, based on the more votes you get. And the nice thing about this is it gives a lot more opportunity for third parties. It has the opportunity for major parties to fail and become third parties or to completely fail entirely. It gives a great opportunity for parties to shift and evolve and change as the times change. The downside, though, is sometimes you end up getting some really far right parties that end up coming into power because people make really screwed up deals. Looking at Theresa May in the United Kingdom and her affiliation with the Ulster Party in Northern Ireland, which is extraordinarily homophobic.
Troubling, dare I say?
I swear to God. Why are you working now?
But yeah, also, I think that also sums up a lot of Israeli politics for the past couple decades, isn't it too?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of political parties in Israel, and I haven't dove into Israeli politics well enough to be able to say things one way or another.
You couldn't pay me to touch that, yeah.
I mean, the sad thing is we're going to talk about it extensively in a bit, at least in one very dangerous way, but we'll get to there. The second of their 10 key values, social justice and equal opportunity. So they are a party that is very much on board with social justice. They're the only party that I have seen so far that supports not just reparations, but also supporting indigenous sovereignty, the various reservations and such. And they also support the idea of an independent Puerto Rico, if that is what the Puerto Ricans want, or what the Puerto Ricans want, as well as an independent Hawaii, if that is what the native Hawaiians want. Yeah, that was one that I really, really liked. Yeah, they're also very much support, like I said, equal opportunity, equal racial opportunity, equal sexual opportunity, equal gender opportunity, just across the board, fix this bullshit.
Yeah, beautiful utopia.
3, ecological wisdom. Don't fuck up the environment, please. Most notably, end fracking. Please switch to energy that is not killing the planet. That would be neat.
That is not making your tap water catch fire.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Number 4, nonviolence. Very much like the Libertarian Party and the Constitution Party, they are anti-war. And very much like the Libertarian Party, they would like to sell all of the bases that America has internationally or just shutter them completely. Decentralization, I forget what this means. I believe it means... Oh yeah, decentralization by allowing communities and other governments to decide how they want things to be done, instead of just having centralized boards decide those things. 6, community-based economics as a way to help improve social justice and equal opportunity, predominantly by offering loans and things to minority business owners. 7, feminism and gender equality, which we discussed previously. 8, respect and diversity. 9, personal and global responsibility. And 10, future focus and sustainability.
Aww.
Yeah, so pretty much the Greens are, I mean, I can't really see anything that I completely disagree with on the Green Party platform.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, a lot of it, though, feels more like big ideas with not a ton of pathways there.
Sure.
So yeah, so that is the Green Party. Most notably, Peter Camejo, who was a member of the party until 2002. In 2004, he would end up running as Ralph Nader's independent vice presidential nominee. Claimed that he was a watermelon, green on the outside, but red on the inside. But in 2004, he initiated what would be known as the Avocado Declaration, which compares greens to avocados instead, which is green on the outside and green on the inside.
So was he trying to tap into the millennial market there?
It's 2004, so the millennials would have been like barely in college at that point. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, we were too busy on, Napster downloading movies and cars and whatnot. Man. And most notably, the Green Party also does not accept donations from corporations, political action committees, 527c organizations, or from soft money. All of their money has to come from public people if you're going to be running as a Green nominee.
I feel like with that plus their platform initiatives, I feel like I'm just listening to Elizabeth Warren's campaign, to be perfectly honest.
I mean, a little bit.
Mostly because I just miss her. I just miss her.
Oh, man. All right. So now that we've very briefly covered the Green Party's extensive platform from 2016.
We hit the highlights.
Look, yeah, it's anything. I'm pretty sure you could imagine most of what they support. So in 2020, in the last couple of weeks, they had their convention. It was originally going to be held at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, but as is tradition in these COVID times, the convention was moved online. There were 7 official candidates and 2 unofficial candidates that would receive delegate votes, but we will only be talking about the candidates that finished with more votes than none of the above. None of the above, the very difficult competitor they are, got 8 delegates.
Oh my God.
They even had to have their own speech during the candidates nomination process, where someone had to represent none of the above and said, this is our chance to finally stop the process, vote for none of the above and pick someone that we all genuinely like as a group.
That hurts my heart so much.
Yeah. Well, and this is because there's kind of a lot of controversy surrounding the Green Party this year. Now, without getting into spoilers, the person who would end up winning was someone that a lot of folks blamed for rigging the nomination process. That this person was so influential within the Green Party that they were able to get their vote solidified far ahead of time. and essentially push out all other candidates who are running well before he was.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so there's a pretty deep conspiracy that we'll get into a bit when we start talking about him. The other side thing, though, is that there was a candidate who was not running who almost got enough to beat none of the above, and that would be former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura. Now, for those of you who don't know who Jesse Ventura is, Jesse initially was a wrestler back when it was known as the WWF, who went by the moniker Jesse the Body Ventura, which I believe was ironic. He was a decent wrestler. He's been in a multitude of movies. We'll definitely do an episode when he was governor, but he was probably one of the last third-party candidates to achieve a major political position and served as governor of Minnesota for 2 terms as the Minnesota Independent Party nominee.
They loved him, right? Like
Yeah, he, if I remember right, did a good job. I need to do research to see if that is true. The only thing I really remember about him is that on April 1st one year, there was a humongous blizzard, and he called the entire Minnesota press corps to the governor's mansion to give an important, what they believe to be an important speech on the blizzard and things that were coming up. And all he did was walk out, grab the mic, said, "April Fools," and then left.
It's a dick move.
I remember at the time finding it very funny, and now, God damn it, dude, no. For about a week and a half, he had an exploratory committee to decide whether or not he was going to run for the Green Party nomination. And he was going to end up being one of the last nominees to run. It was going to be very close to the convention. He ended up deciding not to. The idea behind why he didn't, though, is that he currently works for a news organization called RT. RT stands for Russia Today.
What?
And is most notably known as a state propaganda network for the nation of Russia.
Jesse the Body Ventura?
Yeah, he has a talk show on there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and if he was going to run for president, he would have to give up his talk show, which is, it's probably more lucrative, and it's a job that he knows he will have next year.
Yep.
But also, Green Party, it's not a fucking good look to nominate a guy who is working for Russia.
No.
But this is also where things within the chat, because, the chat's kind of difficult, because there are a lot of people yelling at the Green Party for not nominating Jesse Ventura, because they're like, we need someone that everyone knows about if Jill Stein isn't running. And all we have on the ballot right now are a bunch of people no one knows about. Wanking motion, I see.
I'm making the wanking motion.
As is tradition. But it was also a lot of people within the party were in the chat were just like, he's not running. What do you want from us? Like... Yeah, he got 7 delegates during a time where he was kind of running, but he's not running now. We're not going to make him the nominee just because a couple trolls in the chat want him to be.
If you want that kind of democracy, go to the Libertarians.
Well, and that's the thing, is that the same thing happened with the Libertarians when it was with Vermin Supreme. Like, Vermin Supreme didn't want the trolls to force them to make him the nominee. He wanted to actually win.
Yeah, he wanted to win on his own merit.
Yeah, but you still had a bunch of people in the chat that were like, we should nominate Justin Amash. We need to get someone who's notable. Otherwise, the same thing's going to happen when we lost Ralph Nader, despite the fact not actually putting into the context of why they went from 2.7 to 0.1%.
You think Ralph Nader, you think the Green Party. I think Jesse Ventura, and I think Minnesota, and now a little bit of crazy. Well, yeah, actually always a little bit of craziness.
Yeah.
Which could be the Green Party, but it could be any party.
Exactly. So the most notable thing about the Green Party this year, and this was stated by one of the candidates that we're going to be talking about later, is they probably have the most diverse set of candidates running this year.
Aw.
But the first person we're going to talk about is not very diverse at all.
Oh.
And is a fellow by the name of Dennis Lambert. Now, Dennis is a guy I really wanted to like. And it's not like I don't like him. It's one of those things where it's like say you're hiring for a job and someone sends you their LinkedIn page and it's just about as bare bones as you can get. And it's just like, yeah, you're telling me who you are, but I don't know who you are. I don't know your personality. I feel like that's Dennis Lambert.
Amazing.
To the point that I don't know what year he was born. I know he was born in Columbus, Ohio. I know he grew up in Appalachia, which makes me want to like him even more.
Oh, that's the heartbreaking part.
And I know that when he was 18, he joined the military and became a member of the GOP. Now, this is something that he would later call one of the biggest regrets of his life, because he had been raised in a fairly conservative atmosphere, and it wasn't until he entered the Army that he started to realize that a lot of his conservative beliefs were not beneficial and were not helpful. And he would eventually switch to the Green Party. In 1997, he would get his associate's degree in electronic media from my alma mater, Ohio University.
Hey-o!
Which I hope he had a great time when he was there. After that, he would end up getting a teaching position in Portsmouth, Ohio. and in 2010 would return to Ohio University to get his bachelor's degree in technical and applied studies. I do not know what that means. I feel like that's like a general major. One of the cool things at OU is you could kind of make your own major if you wanted. And so I kind of feel like that fits in there, but I do not know. It's a very vague degree. In 2010, he would also end up becoming the co-chair of the Lawrence County, Ohio Green Party, which is a position he would hold until 2014. He would also that year become a member of the Ohio Green Party State Committee, another position he would hold until the year 2014. 2010 would also be the year that he would run for his first ever race. In the Ohio State House, he would finish third out of 3 with 1.8% of the vote. In 2014, he would run for the Ohio congressional seat in the 3rd District, finishing third out of 3 again, but this time getting 3.2% of the vote. He had performed so well that in 2016, he was considering running for the congressional seat in Ohio's 15th District, but would eventually drop out. Which leads us to 2020, which is a bummer because there's just nothing out there about him. I want more information. I want to know who he is. I want more substance. I did watch a debate that he was in for the 2014 congressional race. And it's essentially him just saying, look, I get along with everyone. You know, I'm a Green, but I'll work with Democrats and I'll work with Republicans. And it's just like, man, personality, give me fucking something, Dennis.
Yeah, Dennis, get some goddamn charisma. Did you hit a nat 1 on this? Come on.
Oh, buddy, no. And what makes it even more frustrating is looking at his platform, it doesn't really differ that much from the Green Party platform, except for a few things. Of the part of the Green Party platform, he supports Medicare for all. He supports the ending of all wars. He supports a program in which students would receive free college education in exchange for 2 years of public service. And he would want to create a civilian sort of military service group for people who want to have sort of that GI Bill qualification, but don't want to fight or don't have the strength to fight or the ability to physically fight in a war.
Oh, yeah.
Which is an idea I kind of like a lot. Now, to accumulate 2 years of experience, I don't know if they mean like 2 years of hours worth of work.
Sure.
Or if they mean being at a place for 2 years and doing work on the weekends.
Right, like an AmeriCorps kind of situation.
Yeah, I would assume the former, but I am unsure. He also supports the Fairness Doctrine, which is something that the Green Party supports as well. Now, the Fairness Doctrine is the idea that all news outlets need to give equal time to both conservative and liberal ideals. The removal of the Fairness Doctrine is kind of what is considered to have raised the conservative radio on AM radio and things of that sort, and have sort of specialized news channels for conservative ideals and liberal ideals. The problem with that, though, is if you're giving equal time to both, are you actually giving equal time to equally good ideas?
Yes, thank you. Because that was the thing that immediately popped in my head of like, can we please remove this? Because I feel like that's where we've been getting the like Barry Weiss and Ross Duhat garbage on the New York Times opinion page.
Exactly. The one idea that he has that really differs from the Green Party platform, though, is he would want to raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour and instate a maximum wage. Yeah, now a maximum wage isn't something that's entirely new within the Green Party. Former lead singer of the Dead Kennedys, Jello Biafra, ran on the idea of a maximum wage back when he was running for the presidential nominee of the party. And it's something I kind of get. When he ran, he wanted to have the maximum wage at $100,000 a year. But the general idea is to keep CEOs from giving themselves ludicrous paychecks within the millions each year and to be able to give more money to the people who are working at the company.
Yeah, except those CEOs, their salaries are hugely inflated. It's true. But the problem is that like their actual wealth comes from bonuses.
Yeah.
And stock options. Like and it's not taxable.
Yeah.
And it's what they're able to walk away with. And that has not like, sure, fine, $100,000. Great. $2 million in an annual bonus.
Yeah. Or yeah, we'll give you $2 million in stocks, or we'll split the stock, and all of a sudden now you have twice as much. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what's your opinion on the raising of the minimum wage to $25 an hour?
It has like absolutely. I'm for it, but I feel like that number is so much more realistic than 15. Like 15 made sense back in 2014.
Yeah.
I get so angry because people with the power to make these decisions still live in the mindset of 1996, and I don't get it.
That's a mean thing to say about Joe Biden.
We should be so lucky he lives in 1996. You can see it in so many examples of, I think there was a casino in New York City that raised its minimum wage, and the effects were immediate for their employers, or for the employees rather, who lived in Rockaway Beach and, you know, areas of Queens, where suddenly it's just like you remove that stress, and so you know, it is as simple as just being able to suddenly have a savings account again. And soapbox.
I mean, that's a good place to end, because that's literally all I have about Dennis Lambert. I wanted so much more, because he's the first person from Appalachia we're talking about. He's the first person from Ohio University. I wanted so much more, but this is all we got.
Dusty, I think that just means it's up to you.
Oh, God, I don't have the time.
Be the third party candidate that you want to see.
Literally every time in the past I've thought about running for office, it's usually a week later someone I really love starts running, and I'm like, good, glad, awesome. So Dennis would end up finishing 4th out of 9 with 2.39% of the vote, and would end up barely beating none of the above by 1 delegate. But thankfully now we get to move on to the first candidate that I'm really excited to talk about.
Yay!
Yeah, and that is Sudanam Kanamo Kristen Moyowasifza-Curry. So Sudanam was born in 1962 in Los Angeles and raised in South Central Los Angeles. Her father was a union man, and her mother was a community organizer, which led her to growing up in a very politically minded home that actively worked to get Black people elected within Los Angeles and California. So there isn't a whole lot out there I was able to find about her childhood. There's a couple interviews of her online, so most of the information I've gotten is taken from those interviews. In 1974, around about, she ended up graduating from California State University, Long Beach with a degree in African American Studies. By 1988, she began living part-time in Ghana, operating her own consulting business. In the year 2000, she would begin her first solo work within politics, or at least as far as I can find, when she began working as a strategist for the People's National Convention, which is a socialist party in Ghana that had recently been created. Cool. And she attributes her direct work to the party gaining its first 3 representatives in that year's elections. However, it would also be this year that she would split from her parents politically. Now, her parents were huge Ralph Nader supporters in 2000. But as Sudanam said, she believed that you have to work within the system if you're going to make any solid change. And so in 2000, she decided to support Al Gore and the Democrats. However, by 2002, she would end up becoming, disenchanted with the Democratic Party. As she said, she felt that the Green Party actually had a solid plan for social justice, while the Democrats only had fancy words. In 2004, she would co-found the Green Party Black Caucus, and in 2006, she would run for the first time for political office for the South Central Los Angeles Neighborhood Council. Now, the neighborhoods in Los Angeles have their own councils to kind of decide local affairs and things like that, sort of like aldermen here in Chicago. In 2008, she would run for the first time for a Green Party position. In 2008, she would run to be the vice presidential nominee for the Green Party, but would end up losing by a voice vote and finish in second place to activist Rosa Clemente. However, there were no sour grapes within that, and she ended up becoming the campaign manager for the McKinney-Clemente ticket. In 2015, she would have joined the Guayama Institute of Viticulture and Winology Research, which is a group that aims to create a wine-growing region within the country of Ghana. Now, I went on to a bit of a deep dive on this. One of my past life obsessions is I worked in the wine industry for a number of years. And prior to 1950, 1/3 of the wine that was grown in the world came from North Africa. And a lot of this was because during colonialism, France took over a lot of that area.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out that area is extremely good for growing Bordeaux varietal grapes, including my personal favorite, Carignan, which is just delicious as fuck. But there's a lot of really good wine that comes out of Morocco, that comes out of Algeria. Ethiopia currently has a very strong wine region. Nice. And so the idea of creating a wine region in Ghana really isn't that nuts. And when 2016 rolled around, this would be Sudanam's first attempt at running for the Green Party nomination for president. She would end up doing pretty solidly, finishing 3rd out of 6 with 5% of the vote. And this would be enough to encourage her to run again in 2020. Now, her platform, it's a bit difficult to find on her website. The best thing about her website is that it probably has one of the best campaign logos I've seen of anyone running this year.
Oh, that is lovely.
Yeah. So for those of you at home, it is a green arm holding up a lantern, and it is flanked by a rainbow of red, black, yellow, and green. Honestly, it's very striking and it's very gorgeous. I think it's probably one of the best we'll see this year. Honorable mention to Urban Supremes, because it was very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's no boot on a hat.
It is not a boot on the head, but it is. If we're talking about really good design, Sudanam hired someone very wonderful for this.
Nice.
So Sudanam states that she supports the vast majority of the Green Party platform, but doesn't believe that the social justice planks go far enough. to the point that when she would become president, she would want to create a department of anti-racism. The goal of this department would be to create metrics to measure how to rate racism within the country and how effective certain programs are at quelling it. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense, especially when you live in a country that's, founded on genocide and slavery. It's probably a good idea to get a lot of experts involved in this and try to figure out, okay, what can we do to move things forward in the future? Another thing that Sunam brought up a lot during her campaign is the book How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi.
Oh, yeah.
To the point that her campaign had multiple readings of the book online. She is a humongous fan of the book and even brought a copy of it with her to a Green Party debate, espousing how wonderful it was. At one point, she would also, the kind of one of the things about Sunam that I found the most interesting of everyone running is she is probably the most critical of the party. During an interview, she stated that the Green Party has big, grand ideas, but they don't have a system in place to make them a reality. So of the two things that she espouses the most within her campaign, one is creating an anti-racist society in this country, but also following the idea of ecological economics, which is the idea of developing a system of economy that is codependent with how the earth works. Because as she says, the earth doesn't need us. And we need to figure out a way to actually work within the world so that we can stay here and still thrive.
Yeah, I mean, where's the lie?
Yeah, 100% right. She also makes a point during her anti-war statements and during her statements of ecological economy that since 1945, we can kill ourselves. We can annihilate ourselves. So we don't need to spend any more of our resources on figuring out how to kill ourselves. We got that down pat.
Oh, I like her.
Yeah. So the biggest, I would say...
Break my heart, Dusty.
Oh, no. This one, you're going to love this.
Okay.
So this is probably one of the most explosive things that I had heard a Green Party candidate say during this whole time, during an interview. When asked what she has that the other Green Party frontrunners don't have, she simply responded, balls.
Oh, shit.
She then noted that the two frontrunners rarely had interest in speaking with her and the other candidates, and that the primary frontrunner had been given advantages from party insiders that made it seem like it was a far-gone conclusion that the frontrunner would get the nomination, which he did. She then called them both cowards and stated that, "This is the most diverse group of candidates in our story that we have had. Why would you not celebrate and want people to see us? They have cowardly, consistently pretended that we don't exist. It's shameful and cowardly. It's un-American and it's ungreen."
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of fucks that she has to give they're just not there. They're not in her platform.
I've looked.
They are nowhere to be seen. Well, the thing is, this year too, Sotomayor ended up actually winning some states in the Green Party primaries.
Oh.
She would end up winning Alaska and Louisiana.
Go on, Alaska and Louisiana.
Yeah. However, despite this, it would only be good enough for a third-place finish, and she would end up getting less delegates this year than she did in 2016, only getting 3.24% of the vote. Which moves us to probably the most controversial candidate.
Oh, man.
And the second-place finisher, a man by the name of Dario Hunter.
Tell me about Dario.
So Dario was born in 1983 in Livingston, New Jersey.
What?
To an Iranian Muslim father and a Black Christian mother. He would end up being raised in both Jersey City and Newark. One of the most notable things about Dario is that he is also gay.
All right, Dario.
So yeah, probably one of the most diverse candidates just on his own merit right there.
Yeah.
By 2005, he would receive his BA in history from Princeton University. After that, he would end up getting his Bachelor of Law from the University of Windsor in Canada. He would get his JD from the University of Detroit Mercy and his Master of Laws from Wayne State University. In total, Dario has 5 degrees.
Why? Why did he go to Canada? Why? He was at Princeton.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe University of Windsor is a pretty solid law school. I honestly don't know. It's a bit hard to track Dario's job history, but between graduation in 2015, he worked as a high school English teacher, an elementary school administrator, a community college instructor, and was an environmental lawyer in Israel for a little bit. And in 2012, he received his 5th degree, in which he was ordained as a rabbi, and is believed to be the first ever former Muslim to become a rabbi. Dario would end up becoming the rabbi of both the shul in Boardman, Ohio, as well as the campus rabbi for the College of Worcester. In 2015, this would be Dario's first ever move into politics, in which he would run for the Youngstown City Council primary as a Democrat, where he would finish dead last with 2.94% of the vote. Undeterred, he hopped into another race in 2015, running for the Youngstown City School Board, in which he would finish 4th out of 7. But the way it is, is the top 4 end up getting elected to the school board. And running as a write-in candidate, Dario was able to get 4.97% of the vote and made it onto the Youngstown City School Board.
Oh my God.
So we're going to dive into something really frustrating here. Because when Dario ran for this position, Youngstown City Schools were not doing so well. They had a dropout rate that increased by 23% from 2013 to 2014.
Oh.
There was a 21% drop in enrollment from 2010 to 2014, predominantly due to people moving to neighboring communities to go to school or going to charter schools instead.
Ugh.
And in 2013, only 1.1% of the graduating class was tested as college ready.
Yikes.
So to fix this, the current governor, John Kasich, took notice and in secret met with businessmen and State Superintendent Richard Ross to develop what would be called the Youngstown Plan. The plan was a drastic action to try and save failing schools and stated that, effective immediately, Youngstown City Schools would require a state-run takeover and be run by an appointed CEO with complete control of the district.
Oh, fuck this noise. This isn't a business.
I mean, it's the business of learning.
No, you can't just like Bain Capital public schools. It doesn't work.
I mean, DeVry's doing pretty okay.
Oh, I don't have enough hands for the wanking motions I need after that.
And then Una grew a third hand.
Made a wanking motion with it.
So the thing that made the Youngstown Plan even more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Terrible?
Yeah. Is that they would be looking at other school districts within the state of Ohio, and if they had a continual failing rate, then those schools would also be put under state-run control. This would end up happening to the Lorain School District as well the next year.
Lorain?
Yep. The CEO and an academic distress commission could replace the principal of the school, replace the majority of the school's teachers, and reorganize district-run schools either as charter or STEM schools, or just full-on shut down whatever schools they wanted in the district.
Oh my God, I am red with rage right now. Like, these schools don't have money, you fuckers. That's it. Like, there's no tax base.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, yeah. It's not a matter of, like, people not working. This isn't an assembly line and your workers are just sloths.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So school funding in Ohio is based off of property value, not income within the area or anything like that. Oh, so the high school I went to had the second largest in geography size in the whole state, but it was essentially cornfields, just massive amount of cornfields. But since the land was valuable, since you could, say, put in housing developments on that land if you wanted to, technically our school didn't get that much funding. We were one of those schools where, like, towards the end of the year, they'd be like, can you please bring in toilet paper and tissues? And our school had some of the best fucking teachers, but it was phenomenal in spite of the state and funding.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna count back from 10. And we're gonna continue talking about the Green Party and not all of my anger towards the way public education is treated in America.
Yeah.
10, 9, 8. All right. Okay, let's just continue.
As you can tell, Una went to public school. All the family numbers are 10, 9, and 8. Look, if we could just get the textbooks for 0 through 7, we'd be set. Oh my God. Well, now that you're calmed down, let me make you even more mad. So, the Youngstown Plan was rushed through the Ohio Congress in 22 days. And the public was furious. And John Kasich refused to veto it because he created it. And once it was made law, Youngstown was officially under state control. The state would end up hiring Krish Mohip, who was the chief officer of Chicago Public Schools at the time.
Boo!
Yeah, that's a great sign, right?
Oh.
So this is what Dario would be entering into.
God,
a school
Dario.
in complete flux that had just been taken over by the state. And one of the first things that Dario did in 2017 was sue the Youngstown City School District for failing to provide public records of their job search for their recent principal hire.
Okay, Dario.
Dario and the school would end up entering mediation, which resulted in him getting more of the records and $100 in court costs, which Dario would donate to the Boys and Girls Club of Youngstown.
Oh.
Now, the school district would end up claiming that this lawsuit was completely pointless because they were like, we have thousands of emails. It's taking time for us to get it. But Dario is like, no, give it to me. I want to make sure you give it to me.
Yeah, good. Good.
In 2017, Dario would also run for the Youngstown Clerk of Municipal Courts, but would finish in last with 26.78% of the vote. I'm not really sure why he ran for that, but, you know,
I'm not sure why he has 5 degrees, taught at a middle school, and then did environmental law in Israel.
Yeah.
Like Dario is like the wind. We just need to accept it.
2018 would be the year that Dario would end up joining the Green Party. And that year he became the chair of the Mahoning County chapter of the party. In 2018, he would also sue the Ohio Department of Education for failing to provide the public records that he needed as a member of the Youngstown School Board. But 2018 would also be the year that he sued the mayor of Youngstown. So the mayor at the time, Jamail Tito Brown, apparently had failed to get what is called a faithful performance bond. I almost fell asleep trying to find out what a faithful performance bond was. The general gist is if you're going to be mayor within the state of Ohio, you have to get a $100,000 bond in the event that someone sues you or due to some sort of malpractice, you end up having to pay out through insurance and not through taxpayer money.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you're elected as mayor, you have to get that bond before January 1st of the beginning of your term. The problem was Jamail Tito Brown hadn't ended up getting that bond until February 21st. And the thing that irritated Dario, though, is that the city law director told him he would just backdate the loan to January 1st and everything would be fine. The thing Dario doesn't like is the fact that Youngstown is full of corruption, it's full of nepotism, and it's full of people running politics in a lazy way. Dario would end up going on to sue, saying that this is essentially saying Youngstown doesn't have a legitimate mayor right now. Dario would insist that he doesn't care who the mayor is, and that he doesn't want to be mayor himself. He just wanted the mayor, whoever it was, to follow the law and not add another layer of negligence to the city. I would assume that the case was thrown out, though, because Brown is still the mayor of Youngstown to this day. In 2018, he would also end up writing an op-ed in the Tribune Chronicle, demanding Krish Mohip resign as CEO of the Youngstown City Schools. Dario would claim that Krish had ruined the one literacy program that the school board was able to push through that was actually in the process of working. It also didn't help that reports were beginning to come out that Mohip was looking for a new job, publicly stating that his house had been vandalized 3 times since he moved to the city and that he no longer felt comfortable moving his family to Youngstown. This also echoed a statement of another state-appointed CEO at Lorain Public Schools, David Hardy, who refused to even move to the city and was most notable for never interacting with parents, students, or members of the school district. Krish would state that he was 100% committed to Youngstown City Schools, but it turned out those reports of him looking for a job elsewhere were 100% right. In March of that year, the Boulder Valley School District in Colorado would announce that Mohip had been one of their 2 finalists for their superintendent position, but he ultimately had not been chosen. Luckily for Krish, though, he was still being considered for the superintendent job at Fargo Public Schools in North Dakota. He would eventually miss out on that job also.
Oh.
2019 would end up being a really, really rough year for Dario. You see, one of the parts of the Youngstown plan stated that if for 3 years straight the school board received a failing grade, in the 4th year, they had to at least get a grade from the state of a C or above. If they did not, then the school is required to dissolve their school board, and the mayor would choose a new school board to replace them. And the mayor also could not pick anyone who was currently on the school board. So it kind of got to the point that people who were running like, well, it's kind of pointless because after we win within less than 2 months, we're not going to have the job anymore.
Yeah, and also it's like, great, so by law, we're required to pick some completely inept and non-understanding dickweed from Fucksville, USA to come in and do this. Knows nothing about the town, nothing, doesn't care. None of this makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and especially with the school board, because you're nominating people who, if they wanted the job, they'd be running for it. They filed to run.
It's like crazy punitive measures for people who do, in their heart of hearts, want schools to work.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Krish Mohip informed the school district that he would be taking an extended family leave for the final months of his tenure and not returning as CEO.
Wanking motions!
Due to his contract, Krish was able to completely abandon Youngstown City Schools and still get his full year's pay, as well as a $10,000 bonus for technically finishing out his full term as CEO.
Shame on him.
It was really interesting because the board that had initially hired him was clearly frustrated that he had just left, because even they during interviews were like, yeah, I mean, it's what his contract says and we have to follow it. So Dario would still stay in the race, a number of people would drop out, and eventually only 5 candidates would remain running. However, Dario would finish in last place with 17.68% of the vote and would end up being kicked off the school board, which he wasn't going to be on anyway.
Yeah, so whatever.
But luckily, this doesn't have a completely sad ending, because in May of 2019, the Ohio House repealed the Youngstown Plan. and then super repealed it by banning school district takeovers in the state budget the next week.
Yay!
In 4 years, the vast failure of the Youngstown Plan was finally dead. As of right now, Krish Mohip appears to live in Chicago.
Ooh.
And according to his LinkedIn, he doesn't seem to have a job. So I think he's like a stay-at-home dad now, which,
Great, good. Do that.
Yeah. So 2019 would also be the year that Dario would announce that he was running for the Green Party presidential nomination, becoming the second candidate to announce. Dario would name community activist and former Green Party national co-chair Darnlene Elias as his running mate. Shortly after this, though, he would be fired from the Boardman, Ohio synagogue where he was the rabbi. This seems to be due to his support for a movement called BDS. Now,
what?
Okay, judging by your reaction, you're not familiar with BDS, and this is the one where I am going to be walking just the thinnest of lines. So BDS stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions.
Oh, okay.
And the general idea is, as of right now, things between Palestine and Israel, not super great.
Nope.
And Israel kind of has a habit of building settlements in land that is supposed to be Palestine's.
A little bit of an addiction, frankly.
Yeah. And you could make the argument that the Palestinians kind of live in an apartheid state within Israel.
You definitely could.
So the idea behind BDS is to take the movement that ended apartheid in South Africa and use that as a way to encourage Israel to change the way they treat Palestinians within their own nation. This is an idea that has been supported by Bishop Desmond Tutu, which I like the man a lot. He's one of the most wholesome, sweet individuals the world has ever seen. But the problem is, on the other side, people have described it as anti-Semitic. That the plan itself is an idea that is essentially trying to ruin Israel and hurt the people of Israel. The Anti-Defamation League has described it as naturally anti-Semitic, and that there is no valid comparison between Israeli policies towards the Palestinians, which are driven by security concerns, and apartheid South Africa. Yeah, it's really, really tough. One of the arguments that I read against BDS is that it, in effect, ends up hurting Palestinians who are working for Israeli businesses, which I kind of remember is the point that Alan Keyes made when he was, against sanctions for South Africa.
Yeah, how about that?
It also doesn't help that J.K. Rowling is also against BDS, which is not a great sign.
That's just not a good look.
One of the other arguments they make against it is the idea that a lot of the people against it say Palestinians don't want peace, they want the entire country back. But yeah, it's a really, really sticky subject. I definitely see points for it. I definitely, especially one of the points a lot of people make against it is that we're living in a world with rising anti-Semitism, and this has the potential to be corrupted into a new anti-Semitic kind of cudgel.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's a potential solution, and it's a potential way to get people like, say, Benjamin Netanyahu to quit treating the Palestinians like shit and taking their land. So Dario Hunter came out in complete support of BDS. He described it as growing up and realizing that you haven't been as supportive of people as you should have been, and doing everything you can to make up for your past transgressions. However, this led him to being what he describes as blacklisted from the rabbinical profession. So after losing his job at the shul and at the College of Worcester, he moved to Los Angeles, California. As you do.
Oh my God, Dario! I cannot get a read on this guy.
It's tough. It is really tough. So of the things that Dario supports, he would want to create a Department of Peace to take over a lot of the duties of the Department of Defense and use it as a way to kind of spread environmental ideals around the world and to also kind of fix the things that we've fucked up. He would want to end corporate personhood, affirm native sovereignty and police killings, and create true reparations for slavery, end all wars, and have healthcare and education as a right, which would include Medicare for all and free education from grade school all the way through college. His three biggest things, though, would include what he would call the real Green New Deal, or the Green Path Forward. Included within this would be a $15 minimum wage, full employment available to the entire population via public works and green jobs, an end to right-to-work laws, finally passing the Equal Rights Amendment, transition to 100% renewable energy, and the use of single-use plastics, and realign diplomacy from military to environmental needs.
Oh, I like that last one.
Yeah. He also created what he dubbed the People of Color Bill of Rights. So this is something they introduced in Lansing, Michigan in 2019 to the capital area.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Aww.
And so the People of Color Bill of Rights includes, it states 9, but I read 10 rights of all people of color. The first, a right to equal access to justice, including freedom from police brutality, racial profiling, and from targeted disproportionate mass incarceration. 2, a right to a truly equal quality, not-for-profit, local community-controlled educational system that values diversity and the histories of people of color. 3, a right to genuine recognition of the sovereignty of Native American peoples, unabridged by illegal disregard for treaties, and including a reparative process and recognition of sacred lands. 4, a right to be free from profit-driven targeting of minority communities for environmental hazards and health neglect, enforced by targeted governmental protection for the health and well-being of people of color. 5, a right to a complete reparative effort, i.e. reparations, to address 400 years of slavery and discrimination against Americans of African descent. 6, a right to be free from all forms of colonialism, including political and economic colonialism, whether in our territories, abroad through America's interventionist activities, or in our local communities. 7, a right to be free from wage slavery and corporate subjugation through employment, which has succeeded chattel slavery with lower pay for people of color, disparate working conditions, and unequal advancement opportunities.
Yeah.
8, a right to governmental protection from predatory financial practices against people of color, increasing regulation against unequal predatory banking, lending, and debt practices and housing practices. A right to fair opportunity for normalized, documented immigration status and citizenship without discrimination due to a race, ethnicity, or national origin, and with equal and appropriate regard for domestic and international law. And finally, probably his most controversial, end funding to human rights abusers, which he specifies as Saudi Arabia and Israel, running on a very strong BDS platform.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just gonna lump those two together.
Yeah, he is not backing down on BDS, and he's going for the throat on that one.
Man.
So Dario would end up winning 11 states in the Green Party primary. He was definitely one of the two frontrunners within the party, kind of considered to be the even further left nominee in some regards.
Sure.
But he would end up finishing second out of 9 with only 28.7% of the vote. Despite losing the nomination, though, Dario Hunter stated that he would continue to run for president as an independent and accused the Green Party of voting irregularities and performing undemocratic practices throughout the entire presidential primary, echoing a lot of what Sudanon had said during her campaign.
Yeah, I also wanted, I'm a little bit shocked that he came out ahead of Sudanon.
I mean, I think the thing that gave him the benefit is that he was a Green Party member that actually held political office.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Sudanon can, and she says this herself, people just assume she's confrontational when she's just honest. She doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it too, is that there's a number of people in the Green Party that she has probably rubbed the wrong way, especially with her
gender bias.
Gender bias, probably race bias, if I had to make a guess. Because the Green Party is a lot of boomers.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people who were there in the 60s and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who miss the heyday of Nader.
Yeah. And, Miss Jill Stein.
Yeah. All right.
So like I said, Dario would end up winning 11 states, and he's still running as an independent, which is something that drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that you have at least 2 of the people who lost very mad at the major candidates, next time we're going to talk about a fellow by the name of Howie Hawkins. He was actually the co-founder of the Greens of USA.
Oh my God, I can't keep any of them straight. I don't even know.
Yeah, he was the founder of the 1991 version before the split of we shouldn't run for politics. And people are we fucking should. And so the reason that Howie is going to have a whole episode dedicated to him is that he has been active in politics since at least the 70s and has run in at least 20 races in his entire life.
Oh my God, this is setting up to be a classic Gadfly episode.
Yeah, this is one that it's going to be a time, because there's a lot of information out there about Howie Hawkins, and as Paul Walker used to say, it's going to be good. So how you feeling so far with the 3 green folk?
Oh my God, mostly confused. Just from continued obscurity of Dennis to BDM.
Yeah.
Which I still cannot disassociate from BDSM in my mind.
It's very different. Very different.
So different.
Yeah, they probably should have moved those they probably should have moved that around. At least a letter or 2 around. Oh man. But yeah, now that we're at the end, marry, fuck, banish, I guess.
Yeah, marry, fuck, politely to leave. Well, I guess Dennis I would politely ask to leave, just because it's just a beige uncooked piece of tofu as a candidate. I don't know I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And then fuck Dario because I think he would be, I don't know.
I mean, I'm agreeing with you on that. I think he would just be in the moment.
Yes, he would be
Like
in the
whatever
moment.
you needed in that moment, he would figure it out.
And you would wake up and he would be gone.
Yeah, oh yeah, he would have moved on to other pastures.
No awareness. It's like, was he even there?
Yeah.
Like, was it all just a dream? And
Yeah.
then Suriname, I mean, I would marry her in a heartbeat.
Yeah, she is.
She's got loyalty. She's got chutzpah.
Yeah, she's definitely got she's got a fuck ton of personality, a great sense of humor.
Yes.
Genuinely fearless.
Yeah, partner for life.
I mean, the fact that she lives in both America and Ghana and still finds the time to run for president, that says a lot. And has her own communications business, and is a farmer, and is trying to bring wine to Ghana. She is.
She's a provider.
She's really is.
Not only would she be the marry option, she'd be the option for like, who would you end up with during the apocalypse? It's like, Suriname all the way. I'm surviving that if I'm with her.
Yeah, honestly, I'm curious of a world in which she won the nomination. I think she would be such an interesting candidate.
She's the candidate too, where it's just like, oh, God, can you maybe go back to the Democrats, pretty please?
Oh my God. Yeah, she burned that bridge. She's done. Well, yeah. So this is the Greens, and as a final note before we head out, I think it's important to keep in mind going into the next episode the two biggest goals of the Green Party this year, and I think that is 100% why Howie Hawkins was considered to be the presumptive nominee the moment he entered the race. The Green Party want to be on the ballot in all 50 states, and they want to hit 5% of the vote, which
I guess.
I mean, you're welcome to try. You should probably do the first before you start shooting for the second, but I think it's important to have that in context when we dive into Howie Hawkins.
Interesting. All right.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, y'all. Sorry for the internet issues we're having here, but hope you enjoyed our first dive into the Green Party. And yeah, please join us next week here on Gadfly.
Yay!
Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at gadflypod.